Hello and welcome to Board Game TV. Hope you're enjoying your October. And for this month, I wanted to do something a little special. I wanted to review and rank my favorite seasons from my favorite show, American Horror Story. Now, you can count the number of TV shows I watch on one hand. I don't watch many TV shows. I'm not a big TV series person. But those that I do like, I kind of stick with and am loyal to and will continue to watch until they really go to crap. American Horror Story has been my favorite show for, hell, damn near 8-9 years now. They are on season 9 right now, Camp 1984. I'm digging it pretty good. But we're going to be ranking the first 8 seasons of American Horror Story. For those of you who don't know, American Horror Story is a television series that is on FX, comes on every Wednesday. Each series usually runs about 10 to 12 episodes. It's an anthology series created by Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. And in my opinion, it is probably one of the best shows on TV. It is my favorite show. And it's kind of ironic because this show came out of nowhere for me. Back when it premiered, I didn't watch anything on FX, so I never saw any commercials for it. None of the actors that were in the first season I followed or really cared about. Hell, I didn't even know who they were. I knew who Jessica Lange was, but I know her from the old King Kong movie, and that's basically it. I mean, she's not somebody I followed. Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk created Nip Tuck and Glee, and I didn't watch any of those shows. Neither one of them were any kind of ones that I watched, even though I know Glee was really big at one time. Just not my cup of tea. And Ryan Murphy is prominent gay man in Hollywood, and so he has a gay following, not just for TV but for a lot of other things. So I know he has a following of that, but I'm not gay, so I never knew who he was. So there was nothing to ever bring my attention to this show. How I got to watch it was my wife likes to binge shows. She sees something that interests her, she watches it, and if she likes the first couple episodes, she'll watch the rest of them. Well, she had done that with the first season of American Horror Story, and she told me that I needed to watch a show, that I would like it and I should give it a try. Now, my wife and I, we have a bunch of different tastes and things, so I was kind of like, I don't think I probably won't. And so, a couple months before season 2 was to premiere, she asked me, she said, "Have you watched it yet?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, look, I really want to watch season 2 with you. I want you to watch it with me so we can watch it together. Will you please just watch season 1 and give it a try?" I said, "Okay, alright, I'll do it." So I started watching the first episode, and about 20 to 30 minutes into the episode, there is a scene. I don't know how to, so this is the most polite way I can, of a naked man pleasuring himself. It was at that point in time that I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell this is, but I'm not watching this. So I immediately stopped watching and turned it off. That's not my thing, so I didn't want to watch it. So about a couple weeks before American Horror Story season 2 was premiering, my wife asked me did I finish watching the episodes, and I'm like, look, I tried watching it, this is what happened. She said, okay. She said this to me: if you can get past that part, I know it's rough, if you can get past that part, you'll really like the show. Just do it for me, I'll make it worth your while. Get past that part and finish watching the episode. And that's how I did, and that's how one of my children was born. But also, I did get past that part, and I did finish watching that episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I continued the series, and that was the roughest part for me to get past. it was all kind of a little bit easier from there. Nothing else like that really ever happened. So I enjoyed it. I was very much enamored by the series. I liked the concept of it, so I said okay. And so when season 2 came around, we watched it together every time it came on, and we've done so with every season since. There are a couple things I would like to say before we get going. One, I'm not going to really give any spoilers away, so if you haven't seen any of these, or you have seen some seasons but you haven't seen some others, don't worry, I'm not really going to spoil anything. Number 2, this show is very violent, has a lot of sex, a lot of cussing. It's not something you can watch with your kids, and if you're not into a hard R rating for a movie, then this show may not be for you, because it has a lot of that. This is an anthology series, and what I mean by that is every season is different from the last one. They take the same actors, or a lot of the same actors. Some will leave, new ones will come in, and that sort of thing. And they'll play different characters the next season. The next season will be about something totally different. Could be at a different time period, totally different location, and like I said, different characters. So it's not one continuous thing from season 1 to, let's say, season 8. Now, none of the seasons connected originally. It wasn't until season 4 that they started connecting some of the seasons. And some of the characters from previous seasons made reoccurring appearances. Sometimes actors play 3 different roles in a season. So that is something you have to understand. I like the concept. I think a lot of shows last too long. I'm gonna take The Walking Dead for instance. I used to really like The Walking Dead, but I think after seasons 4 or seasons 5, the show really started to go downhill, and to me, I don't care about the show anymore. It's kind of terrible in my opinion. No offense if you're a Walking Dead fan, it's nowhere near the same as it used to be. This show kind of doesn't have a problem like that. If you don't like a season, you can always come back next season and it'll be something totally different. So I like that format, and I can't think of another show that has that type of format. So it's very interesting and very different. So, but you have to remember that. And if your favorite actress or actor leaves the show, then, and you can't cope with that, then, you may not, it may not be for you. If you are homophobic, you're not going to like this show. This has a lot of gay characters. It has a lot of gay sex. Ryan Murphy is a prominent gay man. So that's just the way it is. However, the gay characters in these series are not perfect, flawless people that can do no wrong, and they are the right way to be. He will not let his sexual orientation or try to prop up his sexual orientation in a way to tell a good story. Every character in this show, be they gay, straight, bi, whatever, are all flawed. They suffer setbacks. They are nowhere near perfect. And that's because he understands that you can't have perfect people who can do everything just great. It's not going to make for an interesting story. You're not going to like the characters that way. So he does not prop them up on a pedestal. And a matter of fact, a lot of them are kind of terrible people for the most part. So that may offend you as well. If you're really pro-homosexual and you see the portrayal of some of these homosexual people on the series, you may get upset. So just try to leave your sensibilities a little bit at the door. Another thing with this show is a lot of people, if you watch their rankings of this show, they claim the show has a lot of social and political commentary. That he'll take digs at society, at politicians, Trump, that kind of stuff. Now he does from time to time, and you can read into each thing as much as you want. Okay? But it never really ruins the story. It never overcomes the story. The story always comes first. He may take a few little digs here or there. Me personally, I'm a conservative. He takes digs at conservatives. Hey, you know what? I can take it. I'm a big boy. Because he takes digs at liberals as well. Okay? He's fair about it. I don't agree with everything he has to say. But like I said, I'm a big boy. I enjoy the show. But if stuff like that's going to really offend you and tick you off, I know some people who just not watch a show because of their politics, then this may not be for you. I will say, you know, he kind of gets it. You're watching a horror show. And you're watching a horror show because you like horror and you want to be scared and that kind of stuff. There are plenty of political shows on TV for you to watch. Madam Secretary, Homeland, hell, the news 24/7 is all politics. You can watch that. You don't come to an American Horror Story to watch politics. You come to get scared and all this kind of stuff. So he understands that. So you're not going to get browbeaten with it. There may be a few exceptions which we'll get into, but for the most part, he never lets the stuff get in the way of a good story. So if you're a little sensitive about stuff like this, it may not be the show for you. But if you can suck it up, like I did for that one scene, I think you'll enjoy it. Excuse me. One last thing I wanted to say is, now I'll be interested in your rankings of the seasons if you're a fan of the show. Everybody has their own taste. Everybody's list is going to be different. My list may be, and probably will be, different from anybody else's. Please don't send me any hate messages saying, hey, you're an idiot for liking this season number 1. Okay? Look, it's just my opinion. It's just how I feel about it. Okay? We all have our opinions. I'm interested and curious to see why you think you would disagree with me on my favorite season. But, you know, there's no need. We can have a civil discourse of that nature, but there's no need for any kind of name calling or browbeating type stuff. It's my list. Your list will be different from mine, and so forth. So with that being said, let us rank the 8 seasons of American Horror Story. Alright, well, my number 8, and a lot of people's least favorite, is American Horror Story Season 7, Cult. Now, while many people, myself included, think that all of the other seasons at least feel like they had been in somebody's mind as an idea for many years, this season felt like it was came up with on the fly as a reaction to the 2016 presidential election. Okay? That's all this season felt like it was. And also kind of a reaction to the clown craze of a few years earlier. This season has no supernatural elements to it. It's a straightforward jab at overly politics and society and that kind of thing. I don't care for this season. This is the only season that I really don't care to watch. This is one of my first big disappointments. And simply because I don't want to watch a show about politics, like I was saying before. I want to watch this to be scared. So That's a lot of people's problem with this series. The series really has three big problems. The first problem is it tries to capitalize, and remember, this came out also when It Chapter 1 came out, a little bit before that. This tried to capitalize on the clown craze from a few years earlier. And basically what this season is about is Evan Peters, thanks to the 2016 election of Donald Trump, sees that he can manipulate fear and hatred and use it to his advantage to become a politician, a person in power. So he forms this little cult, terrorizes his town to get himself elected, and we go from there. That is basically the gist of the season. Now, when he and his cult go around whipping up fear and terrorizing people or killing people, they wear these clown masks. Now, the clown mask stuff is not, to me, is not scary. And like I said, it was kind of like a couple years too late. I think they thought that people were still enamored or a part of that clown craze. It was coming out. So, hey, man, let's capitalize on that. And it just didn't really work. The clown craze just was a little bit before this, and it lasted, and then it came and went. And I don't find it really indicative to the plot, and I don't really find it scary. The other big problem, of course, is the elephant in the room, is the politics. There were people that would say to me, well, you're just mad that he takes digs at Trump and conservatives. And yes, he does take digs at Trump and conservatives. But I'm a big boy, I can handle it. But he takes just as much digs on Hillary Clinton and the left. If you watch the show, you would see that. He takes jabs at Hillary Clinton. Sarah Paulson's character is your typical left-wing lunatic with Trump derangement syndrome. She can't function. Reality bearing down on her causes her to act like an idiot. She can't see that other people don't have the same opinions and see the world differently than her, and she has no tolerance for people like that. And she's one of them ones that screams at the TV when Trump gets elected, because she's a lunatic. I mean, that's the way. And she lives and hangs with other people like her, and the left-wing people in this show are lunatics. They're portrayed as you see them on the news, the ones that spit on other people and just act all crazy. That's them. And his cult, although his cult is very much a right-wing cult, Evan Peters' cult is, especially when he kind of transitions it to where he has all these guys following him, they act more like an Antifa cult. I mean, he's going around with blue hair. So, you know, I think he takes a dig at them, personally. So, yeah, he takes digs, but he takes digs at both sides of the argument. Hell, Sarah Paulson's wife, Ivy, basically can't stand Sarah Paulson because she voted for Jill Stein. I mean, that kind of tells you the mentality of people like that. He also takes a big dig at third wave feminism. About maybe during the middle of the season, there's a 2-episode story arc with Lena Dunham. Now, first of all, Lena Dunham is, I don't know why she's in this. I can't, the lady can't act for shit. I'm sorry. Her acting in this is just god awful. I don't know how that lady became so popular and such a star, but she's terrible, man. She can't act for nothing. She plays this crazed, rabid, third-wave feminist who just hates men. She's just miserable. She's mad all the time, and her life is total shit. And yeah, that's what happens when you're a nutjob third-wave feminist like that. Your life is total shit, and he portrays it downright perfectly. And so he takes a dig at that. So, you know, he takes a lot of digs at a lot of people. But you can, if you can get by that, then, you know, just don't let it affect you. Just watch the show for the story, even though this season really is not that good. And the third big thing, and one of the really big problems with this season, is all the characters are garbage. You don't root for anybody. They're all terrible. Sarah Paulson starts off, you're trying to get behind her, but she starts off the show being I mean, you can't stand her character. I mean, her character is such a freaking, the whole time you're like, God damn, man up. Quit being a little baby, that type of thing. So, and Evan Peters is crazy basically from the get-go. Maybe the only one I can really kind of get behind a little bit is Billy Lord's character, Winter. But she's a crazed idiot too at the beginning. She kind of comes around a little bit, kind of sees how Evan Peters is. I don't know. They're just no good characters to root for this season. You don't care about really any of them. They're all just terrible. And that's a big problem with this season, is the characters. So, yeah. There is one bright spot for this season, however. There's an episode towards the end of the season where Evan Peters plays all these different cult leaders. He plays Charles Manson, Jim Jones, David Koresh, and a couple others. He looks, acts, sounds like those guys. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He should have got some kind of award for his portrayal of all of them. He did excellent. I mean, he really showed off his acting chops. I mean, he does do really good acting in this series, and he is one of the main staples of it. But he really showed off it on that episode, and that is one of the few little bright spots for season 7. What is that episode? But one episode is not going to redeem a whole season. So that's my take. American Horror Story season 7 cult. Not my favorite, not by a long shot. It's my least favorite. And when I go back and rewatch these every year, when the next season of American Horror Story comes on, I have a really hard time just watching this one. I'm just bored by it, really. I mean, that's mainly it. I'm bored by it, and I'm just not interested in anybody in it. However, you may feel differently, but that's my take on American Horror Story season 7 cult. Alright, so coming in at number 7 is American Horror Story Season 4 Freak Show. I know a lot of people don't like this season as much. I can agree with them to a certain extent. I want to say from here on out though, I can watch all the seasons and enjoy them. It's just Freak Show is a disjointed mess at times, and that's the problem with this season. It's 13 episodes. It's one of the longest seasons of American Horror Story, and the season basically is about Jessica Lange's character Elsa Mars. She basically procures and owns a freak show slash kind of carnival, because there's like a Ferris wheel and stuff there and rides in Florida in the 1950s. And this season deals with the way the freaks are supposedly treated. They're outcast from society, and there's a lot of infighting and backbiting and that kind of stuff in there. And there's a lot of other plot elements going on. One of the problems with this season, out of many, is there are too many villains. Jessica Lange, although she is sometimes good and actually cares about a lot of her freaks that she has, would sell them all out in a heartbeat to become a star. And she wants to be a star of the silver screen or TV, and that is kind of the driving factor behind her this whole series. And so she'll do whatever it takes, and that includes stabbing her freaks in the back or doing whatever she has to become a star. There's Twisty the Clown, who's actually really good. And this season, the first 4, I think, episodes up until the Halloween ones, with Twisted Clown as the main villain, are really good. The series shines in those episodes. It's has a special kind of weird mood. I don't know the way the mood is, the lighting, the camera angles, even the creepy little music they play. The season is really good up until that point. Then after they resolve the whole Twisty the Clown storyline, the series kind of takes a dive. Now it'll pick back up a little bit towards the end, but it's the middle part that really bogs this season down. The other villain is played by Dennis O'Hare. He's a con man, and he basically pretends to be a TV producer and is stringing Jessica Lange along, her character along, to promise that she's going to be a big star on TV. But his main real goal is that he's there to kill some of the freaks or take their body parts so he can sell to this morbidity museum and get rich. His character, I think, is really, really weak. It's terrible. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of characters that are wasted. Kathy Bates, Angela Bassett, Michael Chiklit, and Emma Roberts are all in this season, and I feel like their characters are just wasted. I just don't feel like they do enough with their characters. They don't do anything, and to me that was a big problem with this season. You have these great actors, but they really don't do much. It's like they just sporadically show up, do a little bit, and then that's the last you see of them, and then they sporadically show up again, and it's just, I don't know, it was just kind of a waste to me. However, the standouts to me are Sarah Paulson. You know, she plays the conjoined twins Bet and Dot, and though not her best role in my opinion, this is the one I feel that she really worked hard at and busted her ass, and you can tell she deserves all the props in the world for having to do what she did and how she portrayed the conjoined twins, and she did a fantastic job. She really won some award for that, because you can tell it was hard as hell, and she just did it fantastic. You never ever believe that you always believe she's playing the same person but with two heads, and each has their own personality. She nails it. And kudos to a lot of the quote real freaks who they got to star in this show. Now, a lot of the actors portray freaks, but they did get real freaks to star in this season. The main one being the SEAL guy. He does a fantastic job. He does a really good job for somebody who's not really an actor per se, and so all the freaks do a good job of portraying their characters, and you do really kind of get a feel for the way they're treated by society, although society would come to accept them at a certain point, and I don't want to give anything away, but their hardships, you can really feel their hardships. However, the standout of this season to me, besides Twisty the Clown, is Finn Whitlock as Dandy Mott. I had never heard of him before, didn't know who he was, and Dandy Mott is the last villain of the show, and he's kind of in there the whole season though, and he is the person you love to hate. God, you hate his guts, but you love to hate him. You want him to see him get his comeuppance, and he is does such a fantastic job playing that character. It's the best character he'll ever play during any of his. I think he has 3 seasons in American Horror Story, and it's his best character. Hey, he makes the show. I mean, he really does. He's really good. He starts off slow, and then he really gets going, and yeah, he is fantastic. There are a couple other highlights actually for this season. Neil Patrick Harris makes a 2-episode cameo appearance as a crazed ventriloquist and his little dummy, and he does a fantastic job. And Wes Bentley plays Edward Mordrake, which I think those are two of my favorite episodes from this season. He's basically a freak who killed himself, and his ghost comes back every year on Halloween if you perform on Halloween, and he comes and to kill one of the freaks. He listens to their stories, kills one of them, and takes them with him back to hell. So his two episodes are really good, and I think Wes Bentley does a really good job. And this is a really creepy character. And that's the thing about this season, is there is generally a lot of creepy things about Freak Show. It just bogs down in the middle way too much. And the ending, I honestly say, I thought the ending was very, I'm not going to say anticlimactic or very unsatisfying. I just think it could have been better. Okay? I just think the ending could have been better with Elsa Mars. Although you're supposed to follow her and she's like the main character, you kind of end up following other characters in this series. I think that was not intentional. You were not supposed to really do that, and I think that's a big problem with the season. Also, the musical numbers. They do this thing this season where, even though it takes place in the 50s, like there's a musical number where Evan Peters' character sings "Come As You Are" by Nirvana, and they sing modern day songs, which I don't know what he was trying to do with that. It doesn't really make any sense. That was kind of stupid to me as well. But I want to end it on a bright note. There's a character in this season called Pepper. She's one of the, what do they call them, cephalics or something like that. She's one of the freaks. She was in season 2 of Asylum. Season 2 takes place like 10 years after this. So you get to meet her character before she ended up in Asylum. And she was a fan fave from season 2. And this is where they start trying to connect some of the seasons. The episode where it shows her backstory and how she gets to the asylum and everything is one of the most heartfelt episodes of all the entire series. It's a really moving episode. It is one of the highlights of this show. I almost brought me to tears when I watched it. You feel so bad for her. And amazing. Probably the standout episode of this season. So that's my take. American Horror Story Season 4 Freak Show is my number 7. Okay, my number 6 is American Horror Story Season 6 Roanoke. This season does tend to get a lot of flack as well. And it's very different. It's an experimental type season. I think it's very underrated, in my opinion. I think this season is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. However, this is a season where it's kind of like cut in half, where the first half is totally different from the second half. And basically what the story is there's this house in Virginia that the Millers, Shelby and I forget the husband's first name, move into, and of course the house and the land around it are haunted. And Lily Rabe plays Shelby Miller, and I can't remember the actor's name who plays her husband. Anyways, the way the first half of the season is set up is, if you've ever watched that show A Haunting, it used to come on the Discovery Channel, and it was one of my favorite shows. And the first half of the season is a documentary type take. It's where you have Lily Rabe and her husband in a studio talking about their experience, and then intercut between when they're talking, you have actors doing portrayals of what happened to them. And so Sarah Paulson plays Shelby, the actress. Sarah Paulson plays, oh man, I forgot her name. but she plays the actress who's portraying Shelby and the events of the house. Angela Bassett is playing Ben Miller's sister in the actor portrayal part. And so that's the first half of the season. You have the people who experience it sitting there in a documentary type format telling what happened while actors portray what happened. And it plays very much so like an episode of A Haunting. And I actually like it. I like it a lot. I think the house is also, the environment, the things going on are actually pretty creepy. Whereas the other haunted house stories, this one, there's a real feel of isolation because they're all alone in the woods and there's nobody to help them. And so the first half of the show is that, and the show was called My Roanoke Nightmare, and it was a huge success. And so the producers wanted a season 2. So they come up with this idea for season 2. The producers buy the house. And what they're going to do is they're going to get all the actors who portrayed the real life characters and the real life characters, put them in the house together, and have cameras all over the house and try to scare a few with some kind of special effects and stuff like that, and just see what happens. The second half of the season is supposed to play out more like an episode of Jersey Shore, that type of format, where the actors and the real life people who experience the stuff are not going to get along. They're going to fight, and the camera's going to capture it, and they're going to capture all the little drama and all that kind of stuff. This half of the season is not as good as the first half, in my opinion. I don't think that format's good, and I just don't think. I think the show loses some of its steam going to that. But I understand what they were doing. I see how what they were trying to go for. And it just doesn't work as well. I'm just trying to say the second part. Now, you may like the second part better than the first part, so to each his own. All the acting for the most part is done pretty good. I do have a problem with one actor. However, there is a genuine creepy, spooky vibe to this season, and it has its own feel, and I actually think it's pretty good. Like I said, I think it's very underrated. Evan Peters does a really good job as Philippe Mott, I believe his name is. He's the guy who builds the house in colonial times. And it kind of connects to the Freak Show because he's the distant relative of Dandy Mott, who was one of the villains in Freak Show. The whole concept of a Supreme is set up a little bit here, which kind of ties to season 3 Coven. So it kind of connects a little bit. There is one good little highlight though. I think the last episode kind of plays like one of those ghost chasers or ghost hunter episodes where you get the people going to the house and they're going for cold spots, and they always cut the commercial on some dramatic pause, and then of course nothing ever really happens, and they yell out the ghosts and stuff like that. Man, they spoof and parody those guys really good, and it's good because those shows are kind of, I know they're a guilty pleasure to some people, but they are kind of ridiculous, and so they spoof that really good. Kathy Bates is the standout for me this season. She plays the Butcher during the first half of the season, who's the main villain, and she is nobody plays evil better than Kathy Bates. I swear, man. Kathy Bates, God, man, when she passes on, we're gonna lose a national treasure. That lady is so good. This is my second favorite role of hers. during all her seasons on Apocalypse. I mean, on a Horror Story. She is fantastic. But even better, the second half of the season, you know, she plays the actress who played the Butcher. But she had a falling out with the production, and she started going crazy thinking she really was the Butcher. So she crashes the, she's not supposed to show up or be anywhere near the second season where they have all the actors and the real life participants show up at the house. She's the only one that's kind of been barred from there. But she shows up anyways, really thinking she's the Butcher, and starts going on a kill spree. And she is so good. I mean, she is fantastic. She is the standout of this season. Lady Gaga makes an appearance in this season. She's not in it much. She's only in it for like maybe a couple episodes, as like maybe ties into being the first Supreme or first witch in America. She does an okay job. The big problem for me with this season is the main character, or who ends up being the main character, I felt was weak. She has to carry the show for the last couple episodes, and I don't think she does. I don't care about her. I actually think she's a pretty despicable person. I'm not talking about in real life. I'm talking about in the show. And so I really don't give a crap what happens to her, but she's got to carry the show. And I'm not going to spoil anything, because it tells you kind of like at the beginning that there's only, you know, one survived. Only one person out of all these people in the house survived. And she's the survivor. And she's the last one I wanted to survive, to be honest with you. Like I said, I didn't care for her character. She becomes integral plot point of the story. And I don't think, and she's supposed to carry the last couple episodes, and I don't think she does a good job. And as far as the actress portraying her, I don't particularly care for the actress portraying her. I know she ends up being in a couple seasons. She's in Cult. She's in Apocalypse. I think she does a much better job in Apocalypse. She's in this season. I didn't like her this season. I didn't like her in Cult. I don't know, maybe something about her acting I just don't like. I do like her in Apocalypse though. So that's my big bugaboo, honestly. The second half isn't as good as the first, and the lead actress slash character who has to carry the show towards the end, I just don't particularly care for. And that's my big problems with this show. Other than that, I thought they were creative with a lot of the ghosts in the house. It kind of has a 13 Ghost type feel, because everybody that's killed there becomes a ghost in service of the Butcher. So, and I think it was done kind of well. I like the flashbacks of the colonial times. And yeah, so that's my take. Season 6, Roanoke is my number 6 pick for American Horror Story. Alright, so my pick for number 5 is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, because this is a fan favorite of many people, but it is American Horror Story, Coven. I know this is going to upset some people, but hear me out. Okay, this is the least horror of the American Horror Story seasons. It feels more like a superhero show in many ways than anything else. Basically, it's about this school headed up by Cordelia, played by Sarah Paulson. Takes in young girls who start to show they can do some powerful type things, but they're not in control. They're witches, and she takes them in and she trains them to learn how to master their powers and to live a good life. The Supreme Witch, played by Jessica Lange, and it's one of her best roles, and she does a fantastic job being deliciously bad, she's the Supreme Cordelia. Now the thing is in the way the lore is established, when the Supreme gets older, a new Supreme is going to be chosen. And one of these young girls coming into this school is now going to be one of the new Supremes. And that means that when they become the new Supreme, the old Supreme dies. Of course, Jessica Lange doesn't want to die. She wants to live forever, basically. And she has neglected kind of being Supreme. She's been going around just partying and living up the life. And she finally comes back, and her goal is to figure out which one's going to be the new Supreme and kind of kill her so she won't die. And that's kind of the gist of the season. And there are a few other little subplots, like the witch hunters and the rivalry between the Voodoo Queen and the serial killer, the Axeman. This feels like it's Professor X, School for Gifted Mutants, and he's training all these mutants to get control of their superpowers. It really feels like that. And as much as I love superhero stuff, don't get me wrong, I love my superheroes, I kind of had a little bit of a problem with that. I didn't expect that in American Horror Story. There's really no downside to being a witch. You get these cool powers, and there's nothing really any witchy to it. You can cast spells and stuff, and you could pay the price for screwing up with your powers, but you know, really, there's really no downside to it. Hell, I wouldn't mind having those powers, you know? Shoot, controlled or uncontrolled. So, that is my big problem with this season. The other problems I have with the season is the witch hunter plot really goes nowhere. It doesn't feel like it's utilized very well, and it's kind of wasted, and it's pointless, to be really kind of honest with you. I don't particularly care for it, and they devote a couple episodes to it, and it just doesn't do anything for me. And then the Axeman serial killer, he doesn't really do anything for me either. That whole plot with him just kind of, I didn't care about it. There are other serial killers in this series that are much better than him, and I don't know, I just didn't care. I didn't care for his subplot. A lot of the characters, like Evan Peters, is completely wasted this season. Most of the season, he just spends mumbling and grunting, and that's it. And he's too good of an actor to just do that. So I thought he was extremely wasted this season. So yeah, that was a big problem with me. There were a couple bright spots, I think. The episodes, the Halloween episodes with the zombies attacking them, that feels very much like an American Horror Story. But stuff like that happening this season is very few and far between. And that is the problem. Most of it, the season just focuses on the drama between the girls. And that is the saving grace of this season, is all the characters just about you like. You get to know all the characters, all the girls, and you identify with them in certain ways, and you really care kind of what happens to them. And that's the big strong point and glue of this season. This is Emma Roberts, Kathy Bates, and Angela Bassett's first appearance on American Horror Story. And they all do a fantastic job on this season. And to many, probably it's their best performances, honestly. I mean, Angela Bassett plays the Voodoo Queen, Marie Laveau. And this, by far, is her best role on American Horror Story that she has played. She is fantastic as Marie Laveau. I mean, fantastic. She does such a great bang-up job. Emma Roberts is Madison Montgomery, and she's a bitch. A spoiled bitch with powers. You love to hate her, okay? She does a fantastic job as her. And then, of course, the one who steals the show, Kathy Bates. She plays, oh man, the slave owner who kind of, through magic, gets put in modern times. She's a famous slave lady too, man. I can't remember her name. She's big in New Orleans. Anyways, Kathy Bates is so goddamn evil in this season. This is her best role she's ever played. I think honestly next to her role in Misery. Honestly, I mean, I've seen Kathy Bates a lot in movies and television, and this is one of my favorites. I actually think she's even more evil in this than she is in Misery or Dolores Claiborne. Okay, she is so evil, and she does such a good job of it in this season, man. She is the standout. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say that if Angela Bassett and Kathy Bates weren't in this season would be much worse, okay? These two steal the season. Their little rivalry, their portrayal of their characters steal this season. They're what make this season. Anytime it focuses on them, you just eat it up and you just keep wanting more. My God, it's so good with them. They introduced the character of Papa Legba, who's a pretty cool character. I like that. They kind of introduced the fact that, and this will go on for other seasons as well, that if you die and you're kind of like a bad person, you're going to get put in your own personal type hell and live it out for all eternity. So, you know, they introduced that, and they introduced a lot of things that kind of stick around for later seasons. The setting of New Orleans kind of feels like its own character. They incorporated that real well since this takes place in New Orleans. So kudos to them for that. Special mention to Lily Rabe. She plays Misty Day, who's like a wild witch who infatuated with Stevie Nicks. And one of my guilty pleasures for this season is the last episode. Starts off like a music video with Stevie Nicks coming in and singing Seven Wonders. And you have a training montage of the girls practicing their magic to take the Seven Wonders test. It's cheeseball, and it should be terrible, but it's actually really good. I really like that. I mean, it's one of my favorites, to be honest with you. I think Dennis O'Hare's character is kind of wasted in this season. He doesn't talk, but maybe a few times. But Frances Conroy as Myrtle Snow, Fiona's kind of like rival, was really good this season. She's a real oddball character, but she's really good. And so that's my basic gist on Coven. I know Coven is a lot of people's favorites, but to me it's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of bland on the horror and kind of feels like a superhero story, yet you have these characters that you really kind of get to know and care about for the most part. And Angela Bassett and Kathy Bates, man, they make this season. I wish there was a season with just them two playing these characters. Man, it would be fantastic. So they really up the stakes and save this season for me and make it as good as it is to me, in my opinion. So that's American Horror Story Season 3, Coven. That is my number 5. Alright, my number 4, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers too, is American Horror Story Season 1, Murder House. This was the first season, the season that started it all for me, and it was a great season. It introduced me to a lot of actors who I think now are fantastic actors. and I have a whole new respect for her. To many, this is probably going to be their favorite. You know, if I looked at it through nostalgia, it probably would be my favorite, since this was the first season and the thing that got me into it. But and this is the season I've seen the most, so I try not to look at this season through the rose-colored glasses that a lot of people do, and so therefore it is my number 4. And my big problem with the season is the Harmon family. Now, what this season is about is this house in LA that was built, I don't know what, in the 20s by Charles Montgomery, an abortion doctor. They never really explain why this happens, but if you die in the house, your ghost is stuck there. You become a ghost stuck in the house, and you can't leave. Now, this would later on get explained kind of a little bit in Apocalypse, but for this season, and at the time, you know, for the longest time, you never kind of understood why, but they never explained why. If you die in the house, you're stuck there. So, the story is about the Harmons who live in modern day, Ben and Vivian, and their daughter Violet. Ben played by Dylan McDermott. Vivian played by, oh man, what's her name? I can't remember her name. And their daughter Vivian played by Tessa Farmiga. I hope I pronounced that right. Move into the house because they're trying to rebuild their life. Ben and his wife Vivian have had marital problems and so forth, and slowly they start realizing and bumping into the ghosts of the house. And there is a lot of ghosts in that house. Jessica Lange plays Constance. She's the neighbor. She used to live in that house. She used to own that house. And all of her son or children, except for one, Natty, that is alive right now, have died in the house. So she has a special connection to the house. She really wants the house to be back hers, but she can't afford to buy it. And now that the Harmons are living there, it doesn't look like she's going to buy it anytime soon. And so we basically deal with the Harmon family and all the different ghosts who have all these different agendas in the house. My big problem with this first season, the more I thought about it, was the Harmons. They're the main focus of this season, but I don't care about any of the Harmons. I mean, I really don't. I think Vivian is a cold woman, and so I just, right off the bat, don't care about her, honestly. Ben is an idiot who messes around on his wife and then lies all the time, constantly. Instead of ever coming for the truth, he just lies and lies and lies, and they start to build up. Although he tries to start doing right by her at the end. And, you know, so I really don't identify with him that much either. And Violet is the typical, I want to be your angst teenager, but really I'm just a, you know, decent person at heart type person. So I really honestly didn't really, the Harmons to me, they're supposed to be the focal point, but I really didn't care that much about them as characters, to be honest with you. I was interested to see what happened to them and how they resolve things. Don't get me wrong. And the big mystery is who's the rubber suit guy and all. But as far as their fates go, I just wasn't really interested. The big draw of the show is all the different ghosts that are there and how they interact with each other and the human people that are living in the house. That is the big draw of this season. And of course, Jessica Lange as Constance is fantastic. This gave me a whole new respect for her, and of course brought her kind of like a whole new life into her career. and rightfully so. She does a fantastic job. Evan Peters does a fantastic job. They all do really fantastic jobs, but those two to me, Evan Peters and Jessica Lange, are the standouts. We get kind of like a cameo appearance by Sarah Paulson towards the end of the season as Billy D, Psychic to the Stars. My favorite ghost in the house is Zachary Pinto, who does a fantastic job as a previous owner of the house who's stuck there. He's gay and his partner's in there with him, and they're stuck together. And they don't. He loves his partner, but his partner doesn't love him. That's great. And Charles and Nora Montgomery, especially Nora, played by Lily Rabe. Lily Rabe, this kind of brought me. I didn't know who she was, and this got me. She got my attention with this role. She's fantastic in it to me. I love her character. Frances Conroy as Moira the maid, although again, I've never really understood, and they never really explained this, and I don't know why, it kind of bugs me, is she plays the maid Moira. There's a young version of her and an old version of her. Frances Conroy plays the old version of her, and women see the old version of her. I don't understand. Now, the young version of her, the version of her that died, is played by what's Alexandra Breckenridge, I think her name is her. And so Ben sees her, and all men see her in that form. And it's really weird because she's the only ghost that does that. She died as a young person. Why is she not? All the other ghosts are the same age when they died. Why is she going between old and young, and why certain people see her as young and certain people see her as old? And she's constantly trying to taunt Ben into having sex with her and stuff like that. But again, why? I mean, it's hinted at she's kind of a sex pot, but the older version of her, I don't know, doesn't act like that. I think they kind of, it's an interesting concept, and it is very unique to the show. Don't get me wrong, and it's one of the standouts of the show. But it just kind of, when you start to think about it, it just kind of doesn't work. Or it just doesn't make any sense. This is Dennis O'Hare. To me, this is his best role on American Horror Story. He would play in like 5 seasons. I think this is the one he had to do hardest. The poor guy had to wear that burn makeup and walk around kind of like crippled the whole season. So you know that was a chore for him, and I think this is his best role. Some people will say his best role is in Hotel, but I don't agree with that. I think this is his best role as a man who is constantly in love with Constance. She can't stand him. She just uses him, and you know, he's just hopelessly in love with her, and he'll never have her love. That's all he wanted. Other than that, it's a good stepping stone. You know, the first season of every show I have ever liked is always good, but the series always gets better. They always build from that. And I think that's my point with season 1. It's a great season. It is one of the best seasons. It is, it wows you. Especially if this is the first season you saw of this show. It brought you in. However, you can look at it later on and see some of the faults with it, and not hold it in such high esteem as you should, just for nostalgia reasons. But it is still one of the best seasons of this show. So, American Horror Story Season 1 is my number 4. Alright, so my number 3 is American Horror Story Season 5 Hotel. Okay, I know this is going to cause some controversy too, but again, hear me out. Now, initially, I I had low expectations for this season. Everybody knew Jessica Lange was leaving. She left on her own. You can't fault anybody for that. You got to deal with it, okay? You can't be mad at anybody else coming in to try and take her place because she's leaving the show. She wanted to leave. She left. You have to deal with it. Now, that means that probably the series is going to take a massive hit because you're losing its biggest star. I understand that. So there's that. So, like a lot of people, I was upset Lange was going to leave, and I didn't think the series would be as strong without her. However, I was still willing to give it a fair shake because I understand that, you know, they had no control over that. Then they announced they were bringing in Lady Gaga to star in it. Now, a lot of people assume that she's going to take Jessica Lange's place. I never assumed that, okay? I thought they were just going to bring her in and she was going to play her own unique character. Somebody like my wife, for instance, who hates Lady Gaga, automatically at that point in time was like, I hate this. I can't stand this season. And she does not like this season, and she can't stand Lady Gaga. Now, me, I never cared for Lady Gaga either. I don't listen to her music. That's not my type of music. I don't care about her damn politics. I don't care about her fashion. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm not a Lady Gaga fan. And I will say that when she came into this season, in the first few episodes with her acting is garbage. Her acting is terrible. It's kind of like she plays like a toned up version of herself. A little bit. So, yeah, initially I was very disappointed. However, in regards to Lady Gaga, I will say this. There's an episode almost kind of midway that is an origin story of her character. And her acting in that episode is really good. Her acting gets a hell of a lot better the further you go into the series. Like, she's finally discovering who her character is, and you can tell she's working her ass off. Whether you like her or not, she took a risk doing this because, I mean, she's in some raunchy sex scenes, and she didn't have to do none of that. I mean, let's be honest, man. If you're a multi-million-dollar star, you don't have to do sex scenes on a TV show, as raunchy as some of these were, and as violent as some of these were. So, kudos to her for doing it. And she went all out. And I respect her for that. And I think her acting did get a lot better towards the end. As a matter of fact, after you kind of learn her origin a little bit, I kind of felt sorry for her character somewhat, because she did such a good job portraying her character in the beginning. What her character ends up becoming, or when you first, in the first part of the show, where she is now, no, her character's despicable. But you kind of do feel sorry for her character. There are a lot of actors in this season that I thought their characters were a waste. I didn't care for Kathy Bates' character this season, although she had a few bright spots. Sarah Paulson's character, I just didn't care about either. The whole addiction demon thing was stupid to me. And Cheyenne Jackson's character as Will Drake, I didn't care for. I thought Angela Bassett's character was kind of wasted. So, and Dennis O'Hare's character, I didn't like. I know a lot of people think this is his best go around. I just didn't like his character. I'm sorry. Look, he's a guy who kind of hiding the fact that he likes to dress in women's clothes and wants to really be a woman. And so he ends up going on a business trip, staying at the hotel, and basically stays there and works for Lady Gaga's character after she transforms him, not through any type of vampire type thing, but through, just makeup and stylist, into this Liz Taylor character, where he's this big time looking transvestite. And you're supposed to kind of empathize with him and think he's all that. I think he sucks. And I'm going to plan out, say it right now. He's a douchebag. He put his own selfishness before his kid. He just abandoned his kid. He just abandoned his wife and kid. And that's it. I'm going to go live as a transvestite in some hotel in LA. And yeah, screw my wife and kid. Now I can see you don't want to be with your wife, fine, but don't abandon your kid. And you can be who you want to be. I'm not saying you can't be a transvestite or gay or anything like that. Just don't abandon your kid, man. I would never abandon my kid. Be in their life. You know, it doesn't take much. You know, just be in their life. But he just totally, for many years, abandons his kid. And to me, that's douchebag, man. I can't do that. I would never abandon any of my children for nothing. I don't care if I wanted to, if it tomorrow I ended up being gay or something and had to divorce my wife, I will not leave my kids. I will not abandon them and just have nothing to do with their lives. The whole vampire children subplot to me kind of is meh. So there was a lot I didn't like about this season. However, and there's one more thing. I remember watching this season. Wes Bentley played. The season focuses around three main things. You have Lady Gaga's character, the Countess, who's the current owner of the hotel. She is a vampire, and she feeds. Okay, she takes in various lovers and stuff like that. Okay, so you have Wes Bentley, who's playing this cop. And he's after this serial killer called the Ten Commandments Killer. And he discovers that the Ten Commandments Killer has some connection to the Hotel Cortez, which is in downtown LA. And the thing about the Cortez is if you die in the Cortez, you're stuck there. The rules are a little different from Murder House. Whereas you were stuck there in Murder House, if you're not at peace or haven't fulfilled something in your life or whatever, your ghost is stuck there in the Cortez. Okay? You can die in the Cortez and leave it as long as you are fulfilled or okay with life. They're kind of a little vague on that, but that's the rules for the Hotel Cortez. Anyways, he's investigating that. I remember looking at my wife after like the first episode and going, I bet this turns out to be some kind of Angel Heart situation. And my wife was like, what the hell is that? What are you talking about? I said, the movie Angel Heart with Mickey Rourke took place in the 80s. I bet this ends up being like that. Now, if you don't want this season spoiled, don't go look up Angel Heart and Mickey Rourke, okay? Don't go look up that movie. However, I was totally right about it, okay? So, yeah, I kind of got it from the get-go. And then the third thing is James March, played by Evan Peters. He built the hotel. He used it as a murder hole, basically, a way to kill people without getting caught. He put all these secret rooms and traps and stuff in there. This, by far, his ghost still roams the hotel. This is by far my favorite Evan Peters character. I could watch a whole season of him playing James March. He does it with such campiness, but he plays his character. He steals every scene, man. I love that character. It's by far his best performance is James March, man. I don't think Evan Peters is ever going to top that for me. I really don't. I think he nailed it out of the park. And his loyal maid, Miss Eververse. I can't remember the actress who plays her. She's just as batshit crazy as he is, man. And her ghost roams the place too. She cleaned up after him in life. After they died, she still cleans up after him. She's a hoot to watch, and the actress who portrays her did a fantastic job. I could watch a whole season with just them two, man. Fantastic. So I really dug their characters. I thought Wes Bentley portrayal as the cop, John Lowe, was okay. I thought he was a little flat at the beginning, but then he kind of got a little bit better. I think Matt Boomer did a good job this season. I think he's one of the underrated standouts that you kind of don't get too focused on, but I think he does a really good job this season. The episodes where the serial killers on Halloween come to the hotel are by far the standouts. You have John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, the Zodiac Killer, and Lily Rabe as Eileen Warros. And she nails it out of the park as Eileen. They all do as those killers. That is a fantastic episode. And it is just, man, you sit there and go, man, why doesn't he do a whole season of this? And it's fantastic. It's one of the standout things for it. So, honestly, originally, Hotel was kind of like a mixed bag for me. There were things I liked about it, really liked about it, but there were things I didn't like about it. However, the more I watch it, and every year when a new season of American Horror Story comes on, I rewatch the old ones. The more I began to like this season. And every time it would come time to watch them all again, I would look more and more forward to this season. The mood for this season is fantastic. I think it encapsulates one of the most moody and best of the entire series. The music for this series, and I'm not talking just about pop music soundtrack, which is really good, by the way, but I'm talking about score, is really good. It's really this creepy, it's the best score of all the seasons in my opinion. And then the lighting is fantastic. It has that Suspiria type lighting of the old Dario Argento movies. And I start to realize what Ryan Murphy was going for with this. I mean, this is kind of a mix between Seven, a little bit of Suspiria, and The Hunger, which is a movie in the 80s. This actually has a very 80s, even though it doesn't take place in the 80s, has a very 80s horror movie vibe to it. And I started thinking, maybe that's one of the reasons I really started liking this. And so I started to see what Ryan Murphy was going for. And that's the thing with season 5. If you don't get what he's going for, you're not going to like this season. I kind of started getting what he was going for, and so this season has grown on me and grown on me, and the more I watch it, the more I like it. And I just think it had risen up to be my number 3. As how much I really love this season. Now, a lot of people will go into this and say they hate this because of Lady Gaga. Then you have the Lady Gaga fanboys who go into this and loving it because of Lady Gaga. I say this. Don't do that either way. Don't hate it because she's in it. Don't love it because she's in it. Just watch it and give it a fair shake on its own. If you're one of the ones who initially did not like this season, give it a rewatch. I think maybe I'm not the only one, but I think the more you watch it, the more it grows on you, and the more you start to get it, and the better it becomes. If the first time you watch it, if you're new and you watch it and you don't like it, take a step back, watch some other seasons, and then later on come back a couple months later and watch this season again. I think you'll start to get it just a little bit more. And that was my initial reaction with season 5 Hotel. I think Hotel is very underrated. I think it is much better than anybody gives it credit for. And personal pick to this day, I still enjoy watching this season more and more. And it has a Shining feel to it as well. The old Stanley Kubrick Shining. It kind of feels a little bit like that as well. And because the cop is kind of going crazy from isolation in this hotel. So that's my pick for number 3, American Horror Story Season 5 Hotel. Alright, my number 2 pick is American Horror Story Season 8 Apocalypse. This season is fan service. It is the MCU Avengers of the American Horror Story universe. It is a sequel to Season 1, Murder House, to Season 3, Coven, and somewhat to Season 5, Hotel. Okay? It takes place in the year 2020, so it's a futuristic, little bit, no sci-fi elements. No. Just takes place in the future. And all your favorite characters that you loved from Season 1, that you loved from Season 3, and a few from Season 5 all come back in this season. Even Jessica Lange, who left the show, makes an appearance in the episode. Angela Bassett makes an appearance in this season. Everybody does. It resolves a lot of loose or kind of cliffhanger type plot lines, and just about every character from all of those seasons, their storyline gets wrapped up and resolves. What this is about is, at the end of Season 1, the Antichrist was born. And this season is basically how the Antichrist caused the apocalypse to happen, a nuclear apocalypse, and the witches, he's about to, finish up his plans, and the witches from Season 3 have to be the ones to stop him. They tried to stop him before, they couldn't, and now they're going to try to one last time to finally stop him from even making things even worse after the apocalypse. And that's the gist of this season. Now, the season starts off very different than it ends up being. The first 3 or 4 episodes, basically you have new characters that you get to know, and the apocalypse happens. They get to go live in this underground bunker for the rich and elite. And so the first several episodes are basically them living in an underground bunker. The drama between the leadership in the underground bunker and the people who are in there, and the drama just between the characters and having to live in the underground bunker. It's very tonally different from the rest of the season because the Antichrist comes in, and then the witches come in, and then this season is a series basically of flashbacks telling how we got to the apocalypse, how the Antichrist ended up being raised, who raised him, how he discovered who he was, that type of thing, how the witches come into play and know about him, how they tried to stop him, how he beat them, and how now they're trying to make their last stand against him and save the world. That's the rest of the season there. And then, of course, it ends in their present time of 2020 with the final showdown. I love this season. It came out after Colt, so it washed that bad taste out of my mouth. I just think that this is like I said, this is the cinematic universe version, the Avengers, the whole bringing it all together of all these other seasons. This season is not as good if you have not watched the prior seasons 1, 3, and 5. So the normal format of you can watch any season kind of out of order doesn't apply to this. Otherwise, this season is not as good because a lot of joy you get from this season is seeing the fan service, seeing the continuing stories of those characters from those other seasons. If you didn't care for the characters, or you didn't care for seasons 1 and 3, then this season is not going to be as good to you. This season is better, and the reason it's my number 2 is enhanced because it is a sequel basically to 3 other seasons. That is why it is so good to me. I like it. I like where they go. I like the resolution of the storylines that were kind of left hanging from the other seasons. And I like what they do with a lot of the characters. I think it's really, I think they do a good job with it. I honestly do. I think Cody Fern, this was my first introduction to him. He plays the Antichrist, Michael Langdon, and I think he does a very good job. This season also goes a lot back to the horror aspect, even though it's a supernatural type thing. It is one of the darker tonal seasons. I mean, of course, it has a lot of the satanic stuff and the apocalypse and that kind of stuff. Kathy Bates is great. A lot of characters play three different characters. Sarah Paulson plays three different people this season. She plays Miss Venerable, the kind of like overlord of the bunker where all the people are at. She plays Cordelia. She returns as her, and she even comes back as Billy Dean as a cameo. So Jessica Lange comes back as Constance. Dylan McDermott comes back as Ben. What's her name comes back as Vivian. Tessa Farmiga comes back as Violet. Anne as her witch character. I can't remember what her name was. Lily Rabe comes back as Misty Day. Bassett comes back as Marie Laveau. I mean, it's just all there. Evan Peters plays Tate. He also plays a hairdresser at the beginning of the series. So he plays, and he also reprises his role as my fave, James Patrick March from Hotel. So, yes, I know fan service is what helps this season a lot. If it didn't have that, it probably would not be this high, because it does have some flaws. I will admit that. Okay. What's his name? Billy Eichner's character just seems totally wasted. A lot of the cast for the people that are in the bunker at the beginning, yeah, they don't really interest me, or not that good. Although Joan Collins is very good this season. I really like Joan Collins. That lady shows it. She still has it. And then, you know, there are a few other little things, like you're supposed to believe that this young couple are the main focus, and then it kind of swerves you, and yeah, it kind of forgets about them for a while. So there are a few flaws. However, I think this season is fantastic. It is my second favorite, and it just feels like I'm watching the culmination. It's like the Avengers to me. It's like I'm watching all these standalone seasons, and it all comes together, and you have the Avengers. And this is my Avengers of American Horror Story. And that's probably why I look at it with rose-colored glasses. But my number 2 is Season 8, Apocalypse. And my number 1 is American Horror Story Asylum Season 2. Man, I love this season. First of all, this is the most horror of all the seasons of American Horror Story. This season is dark, it's depressing, and it is truly horrific. And a lot of people can't stomach that, and that's why they kind of stay away from this season. But man, this one really packs a punch. And it is depressing. This is a depressing season, don't get me wrong. But man, is it good. I did not think they were going to be able to top the first season, and then I saw this, and this season just blew me away, and I loved everything about it. Yes, this season has its flaws. I think it has a few too many things going on, but other than that, it is fantastic. This season has everything from demonic possession, zombies, Nazi doctors, serial killers, death, literally the figure angel of death, and of course the haunted, or not really haunted, but the asylum. The basics, it takes place I think in the 60s, It has a connection with season 4, and yeah, it does with season. So did I mention that this season was really dark? This is like the Empire Strikes Back of horror story seasons. They went really dark with this season, just like Empire Strikes Back, and it took, I think it's criticized because of it. But then they took a lighter tone with season 3, Coven, just kind of like Star Wars did with Return of the Jedi. But when you look back upon it, I think many consider Empire to be the greatest Star Wars movie and one of the greatest sequels of all time. And I think this is probably one of the best. This is why I consider this to be the best season of American Horror Story. I just really like the tone of it. I think the dark fits it. It's also a lot of best for a lot of actors. Sister Jude is the head nun of the asylum. And basically what's happened is Kit Harington plays Jimmy, and what does he play? Kit. He plays Kyle, or I can't remember his name in this season. Anyways, he's being pinned for the murders of a serial killer going around named Bloodyface. And this takes place in the early 60s. Of course, you know he's not really the killer, but he's put in the asylum to be evaluated. And he's going to be evaluated by Zachary Pinto's character, Dr. Thretson. And Sister Mary Eunice, played by Lily Rabe, gets possessed by a demon during a botched exorcism. And Sarah Paulson plays lesbian reporter Lana Winters, who's trying to prove herself as a reporter, so she breaks into the asylum to get the scoop on Bloodyface, and she gets caught, and she gets committed there because she's a lesbian. And that's right, back in those days, homosexuality was considered a mental disorder. So for all you people who complain about gay rights these days and think you got it tough now, back then you literally had to hide the fact that you were homosexual, or you could be put in a mental asylum. Okay? Get electric shock therapy and all this kind of stuff. Okay? So there's my 2 cents on that. And so you follow all the little going ons between what's going on. Sister Jude and her little rivalry with Hans Gruber, the Nazi doctor, who's the doctor of the asylum, and of course the head priest, Father, I can't remember his name, who's actually in charge of the whole thing, and who really Bloodyface is and what happens. And you can't really say much, you don't want to give anything away. But this is a lot of best for a lot of these actors. Sarah Paulson's Lana Winters is her most iconic character. It's her best character in my opinion. Her character would make a cameo appearance in Roanoke season 6. And it's even Sarah Paulson's favorite character. So outstanding as Lana Winters. She did fantastic. Jessica Lange as Sister Jude. It's her best performance out of the whole series to me. And I think she considers it her best role, and you can tell she worked her ass off for it. Zachary Pinto, although he was only in 2 seasons, I think this is his better performance this season. I wish he had stuck around and did more seasons, honestly. I think he's a good actor, and he brings a lot to the table. Dylan McDermott returns this season. I think he does a fantastic job. Of course, Lily Rabe always does a fantastic job, and this is probably my favorite character and best performance of her as the pure nun who's been possessed by a demon and is going around doing evil things. She's fantastic. I mean, and of course, Evan Peters does a good job as his character there. The lady who plays Grace, I think she does very good. And I wish she had stuck around and done more seasons. I think she's a good actress. So this has a lot of best, most iconic performances, characters from a lot of these actors. Ian McShane makes a couple episode appearance as a crazed serial killer Santa Claus. He's fantastic. The whole bloody face thing is genuinely creepy and fantastic. I think the only thing I don't like really about this season, honestly, is the whole death subplot played by Frances Conroy. I'm not saying she does a bad job, I just don't really care for it. And I think I think there's like 2 episodes with Adam Levine where it takes place in present day. I think he can't act worth a flip. Why they put him in this show, I don't know. And he just needs to stick to making music because I didn't think he did a good job. I think the resolution of this series is very well done, although it's really tragic for a lot of people. This is a very tragic season, and there's really no happy endings really for anybody, and I think that bothers a lot of people. The asylum itself has a genuine oppressive nature to it and a creepy nature, and it works really well. I know he takes some social commentary on the way people treated the mentally ill back then and homosexuals back then, and you may think he takes digs at the Catholic Church, which I think he does to a certain extent, but I think he also shows that they're not all bad. The head priest, Father Joseph I think is his name or whatever, yeah, he's corrupt as hell. You can tell he was once a good guy, but he lets his ambition for power and his ego get the better of him, and he becomes a real sleaze, kind of a douchebag. While Sister Jude is actually a good lady. She's a hardliner. Don't get me wrong. She's a hardliner. She's real tough and disciplinarian. But you can tell that she actually cares and really is trying to do good in her own certain way. And because of the way she opposes the doctor that's in the asylum, the Nazi doctor, she doesn't trust him and thinks he's an evil guy. And I think she has a lot of redeeming qualities about her. If you look at it though from a certain way, yeah, the place was run pretty bad by today's standards by the Catholic Church. It was a real hard line. But then 3/4 of the way in, the Catholic Church sells the asylum to the state, and the state takes over running the thing. And let me tell you, as bad as the Catholic Church thing was, it's run a million times worse by the state. I mean, the way the asylum ends up being run is like one of the levels of hell in Dante's Inferno. I mean, that place is a hell hole once the state gets a hold of it. And it just goes to show you that anytime the state comes in and takes over something, they screw it all the hell up, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. I would have much rather been in that asylum when the Catholic Church was running it than when the state runs it. And you'll see why, man. The way the state runs it, it is total shit. I mean, it is bad. So, yeah, you can say he takes a dig at the Catholic Church, but he takes a dig at the state-run government institution as well. So, don't think he's sliding the Catholic Church. If you're Catholic and you tend to get offended when people portray nuns and stuff like that, I don't think he doesn't do a bad job. He does honestly a realistic job. You got your good and your bad, just like in every profession or every faith or every type thing. We're all human, so you have bad people and good people in the same kind of institutions. I don't think he's ever going to top this season, to be honest with you. I like this season that much. I go forward looking to every season thinking, hoping, man, maybe this will be the year that they top Asylum. And he's been close a couple times, in my opinion. But Asylum is just the end-all be-all for me. I really do enjoy it. I do think it is overpacked. But I think it has so much more good and very few little problems with it. And I love the oppressive horror nature of this season. Yes, it's dark, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like it, or don't like it as much. But man, it was supposed to be dark, and it was supposed to be like that, and they hit the nail right on the head with it. So that is my American Horror Story, my number 1 American Horror Story, Season 2, Asylum. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I'd like to see your thoughts on the show. If you are a fan of the show and have watched all these seasons, then I hope you let me know what you think. Send me your list, how you would rank the seasons. I like to be interested to see that. If you've seen like a couple episodes here or there, or maybe 1 or 2 seasons, and this helps you get back into it, great. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you left, and maybe I can convince you to come back. I hope I was able to convince you to come back by doing this list. And if you've never seen this show, hey, each his own. You may end up getting into it because of this and watching it and have a totally different opinion from me. That's great. My advice to you is, you can watch the seasons out of order. If one season interests you more than another, you can watch them out of order and not have a problem. The only caveat to that is Apocalypse. I would highly recommend you would watch seasons 1, 3, and 5 before you watch Apocalypse. And I would actually, I think, to even enhance it, watch a couple other seasons before you watch Apocalypse. That way you kind of like build up expectations. You put some stuff in between those seasons, and you heighten the expectation even more, because Apocalypse is about fan service. And if I brought you into it and you start watching it, let me know what you think. Like I said, this is my favorite show. I'm digging the new season now, Camp 1984, which is basically their take on the slasher movies of the 80s. I think so far it's pretty good. Although I think they may jump the shark, who knows. But so far I'm digging it. And it's a perfect time to get caught up. So far that season has not connected with any of the other seasons. So if you want to watch that one, it's on now. By all means, go for it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have fun.